Welcome back. We're talking about the refugee crisis on the Mediterranean Sea, where more than 3,000 migrants have died this year trying to reach Italy and other parts of Europe. Joining me now from Milan is award-winning investigative journalist Fabrizio Gatti. Fabrizio, welcome to the show. We've just had an overview of the enormity of the issue in Europe right now, with migrants trying to reach countries in Europe. You've done a lot of work, investigative journalism, on this particular issue. Give us some idea of the challenges that these migrants face as they try to get onto these death boats to try and get to Europe.
So the people are men, women, family, children, also a lot of children, and they are escaping mainly the war in Syria, the dictatorship in Eritrea, and also other crisis area all over Africa. But because there is no way to get to Europe legally, so the only international agency on the way to Europe is the trafficker mafia, and so they are obliged to get on the boats because they know that according to the international agreement, once they arrive at Europe, they have the possibility to apply for asylum, and the asylum is recognized. But there is no agreement between the third countries on the way and European countries, so the only way to get in is going to the smuggler centers in Libya or in Egypt, and so board in a very dangerous way this kind of boats who are overcrowded because the traffickers want to make as many money as they can.
Right, you refer to these traffickers as mafia, these smugglers. In many respects, the people trying to get to Europe are very dependent on them, but at the same time, they are exploited by these smugglers, aren't they?
Yes, I've traveled undercover all along the route across the Sahara Desert, and then I was also detained as illegal migrants. And what I've seen that all along the way you have to pay. You have to pay for informations, you have to pay to get free. For example, for the Eritreans, once they arrived in the Sahara Desert, many of them are kidnapped, and then they call the family to ask for a ransom that could be between 3,000 US dollar up to 30,000 if they know that it's a rich family. And also along the way, then you have to pay everywhere. Also, maybe you are also stolen of the water, of the food, and you have to pay to have it back. And these are the conditions on the journey. When you arrive at the sea, you know that if you go back, you have to face again the war, the dictatorship, or also the traffickers mafia. And so the only way is to carry on the journey and board the boats. And you have to pay to get to the sea. It's about 1,600 US dollar to pay, and to get on the boat and reach Europe is another 1,600 US dollars. That means that with about $3,200 each person, and this year, since January, about 130,000 people have reached Europe in this condition at these prices.
Right, so you pay to get onto these trucks and these boats to be smuggled to Europe, and then along the way, there's even more money extorted from you. What happens along the way if you can't pay that kind of money? Are you just abandoned?
You are stranded. I've met many people who were stranded along the desert everywhere. Of course, the journey from Syria is shorter, and at this time, most of the Syrians' middle class is moving away from the country because of the war. But the worst is when you have to cross the border, for example, between Syria and Turkey, or when you arrive in Egypt, and then you have to cross the border to go to Libya, which is the closest coast to Europe. But if you don't have money, you are stranded, or if you have been kidnapped or detained and you don't have the money to bribe the soldiers or the traffickers, you are just a hole there. You have no way to come out. So last year we knew about the story of a 14-year-old guy who had been kidnapped 3 times before arriving at Europe, and a family who died on October the 3rd at the first shipwreck offshore Lampedusa. They have been kidnapped 2 times, and there was the mother and the 2-year-old son also has been kidnapped. So in Egypt, it's even worse. Some Eritreans, asylum seekers, they are kidnapped, and also the traffickers take them into hospital where they are stolen of their organs. And we have received pictures of people with injuries and they were dead, that have been buried in the desert. These are the conditions of the journey.
So it gets worse all the time. I mean, not only are they kidnapped, but as you've just told us, they have their organs harvested as well. Fabrizio, you've done undercover work. You've traveled with some of these migrants. I want to show our viewers a photograph that you took, and it's quite a piece of photojournalism, this. It's of a truck piled high with people and their belongings. This photograph was taken somewhere in North Africa. And I want you to tell us the story behind this photograph. Who are the people there? Where is the truck traveling from, and where is it going to?
So this picture has been taken in the Sahara Desert in Niger on the way to Libya. And the people were mainly from Nigeria, Niger, and Mali, which are area now where also there are some fightings, especially in the north of Nigeria and in Mali too. And you can see the condition. The truck is overcrowded, and you have your water tank, a little food. Otherwise, you don't have enough space to carry all the food. And the traffickers drives day and night. They very seldom stop just to have some toilet, and they are used to eat, and so then you can eat very little. And when you arrive at the military control post, you have to get off the trucks and then put your hair on your head, and the military are used to arrive and beat you because they know that maybe you are carrying money to carry on your journey, and they want a part of the money. So on the road between Niger and Libya, which is about 3,000 k's, most of them are in the sand, you can be robbed and tortured or beaten even 12 times before getting to the sea. And then once you arrive, you are hosted in a very overcrowded area. There are workshop or houses or farm very far away from the town, and then you are taken to the boat when the people have to get on this boat in a very overcrowded condition with no possibility sometimes even to carry water because there is no space to carry water, and the trafficker are used to steal your water, and then if you are thirsty you have to pay them back to get the water again. And also there are some oases in the middle of the Sahara where the people arrived, and when they run out of the money, they work as slaves in change of some rice or bread, and they hope to be paid to carry out the journey in those conditions you see. The even worse are the small 4x4. These trucks you have seen, it can load up to 300 people. And they are small 4x4, Toyota 4x4, which are loaded up to 35 people. They are even more dangerous because when they break down in the middle of the desert, or sometimes the trafficker pretend to break down to shorten the way, they ask the people to get off and they go away, and the people are stranded, and most of them are used to die because when you are in the middle of the desert without any water or food, you die.
And if we look at the places these people are coming from, places like Syria, Iraq, Libya, some other in West African countries as well, the situation is not getting any better there. So one presumes that this kind of migrant movement across the Mediterranean is just going to increase in the future. Yet there is also pushback from Europe, with some far-right groups, even far-right political parties saying that's enough, we can't take these immigrants anymore.
Yes, there isn't any European Union unique policy because, for example, Italian government had decided to rescue all the people after the last year shipwrecks, and then so there is a naval operation at sea called the Mare Nostrum, our sea. But in the same time, Greece is pushing the people back, and sometimes this pushback operation, the refugee dies because when the police at night pull in the rough sea, pull the boats back to Turkey, sometimes these boats are used to capsize, and it happened also last winter. So there is no unique policy, and this is one of the problem of European Union because only 5 countries, Sweden, Germany, France, Italy, and UK, are assisting and accepting the 75% of all over asylum seeker in Europe. It means that only 5 European countries out 28, how they are in the European Union, are dealing with the issues. All the other countries that just pretend, they say they cannot do it, or they found an excuse not to intervene in this situation. But if you consider the proportion between the number of the arrival, for example, this year, and the population of European Union, you can understand that we could solve the problem, because we have received 130,000 people this year, and the proportion with the European population is 505 million people all over European Union. So you can see that this is, comparing with it, with the inhabitants, is a very small number of asylum seeker comparing with the European population. What's going on in the future? All the crises for the Islamic State and the war in Syria and the spreading of the crisis also in Libya, of course, will push more people to escape and to try to get on the board. And until the European countries won't help the people to resettle the asylum seekers, we will have more people dying at sea.
Fabrizio Gatti, great work bringing this to the attention of the world. Thank you so much for joining us.